Uh, that the one home run that stuck out to me with you in 21 was that jack you hit at Durham. I know we talked about it before we came on. That was an opposite field homer off the hotel. Have you hit a ball that far since? I'm sure you have, but that was the one thing I'm like, dude, Kyle's got pop, man. I see what they're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if I've hit a ball like that the other way since then. Funny you mentioned about that. Like, the surrounding like like that moment for me was like, I think it took me a few games to get my first hit in AAA. And then like I was punching out a good bit, and then the first at bat against Bod, I'm pretty sure he punched me out on like all fastballs, and then like the next at bat he went like a couple off speed pitches 0-2, and I just remember like I'm not missing a heater if he throws it here, and it was a little bit shorter to it, um and yeah, so just kind of going back to that, like there's just moments that surround the things that people highlight, that I remember the stuff leading up to it, kind of I remember it being the end of the year, kind of grinding, and so it's cool when you can have those moments kind of, to finish strong and to remember.
Yeah, I mean that was your rise, and at that time in 21 on that team, then it was you and Adley as far as the top prospects at that moment, and the team was the Bigs was still trying to figure some things out, right? And it was an exciting time. Uh, and then you're just kind of waiting. I think one thing, Kyle, I try to give perspective, and I think what I always admired with you is your consistency through the good and the bad. You had to be a little bit patient, for your opportunities. You had to go through moments. What was the most you kind of learned then in Baltimore from getting to the bigs, going back down? I think if it wasn't you, I think Nick Vespi might have rode the Norfolk
Yeah.
uh, train more as far as doing that. In some cases, it just was the availability, But what did you learn from all that through the
Yeah, I
time?
think um, you know, the time that I'd highlight the most that was probably the most difficult was like at 22. I debuted as a COVID replacement player, got called up in August for the rest of the year, and had a pretty decent showing with the bat. I mean, started off a little bit slow, but and I think finished. I mean, only like 100 at bats, finished like at 250, and the thing that's interesting is up until you get to the big leagues, every level is you know, at least for me, how it took place, it was very linear. It was like, hey, I'd get to this new level, I'd struggle for a little bit, I'd figure it out, and then I'd have a good stretch of playing, and I'd go on to the next. And so I kind of thought that's how my big league career would go. To be honest, I thought that you know when I had went through like that early struggle for about 10 games, and then started swinging the bat well, I was like, hey, like like I've quote unquote made it, and so the time that was probably the most eye opening for me was just the year of 2023. I made the team out of camp, had a pretty pretty good spring, and then wasn't playing and got sent down after a week. And they're like, "We need to get you at bats." And I was like, I was just kind of surprised because, um, like I had been played well at the end of 22, had a good camp, and thought things would just keep kind of on that linear progression. And then when I got recalled from AAA in about, I think it was like late April, really struggled, got sent down, and then I got hurt and missed about 8 weeks. And so for me, that was probably and it didn't go back up the rest of the year. And that was such an eye opening experience that whole year that, hey, man, like it's really hard to make a big league roster, at any point of the year. Being on a 26-man roster and wearing a big league jersey is a huge blessing. And it's not something that's taken for granted. And so, I don't know if that kind of answers your question, but that for me was probably like the most challenging year.